Okay, I don't know how YouTube will take this video, but well, we're here to play, so here it goes. Today we're going to mention and talk about some of the most terrible Kumeadas in the history of anime. And no, you pervert. I'm not talking about that kind of Kumeadas. You wanker, son of the 3,000 whores. Now then, what exactly do I mean when I say a character ended up all Kumeado on the floor? Well, the explanation is actually very simple. You know those times when there's a fight in an anime and one of the rivals, or several, end up lying on the ground, in a fetal position or something like that? Well, that's when you'd say a character has been terribly kumeado. Because sometimes, for various reasons, which we'll discuss next, these aren't your typical humiliations like the ones I talked about a while ago in my video about humiliations in anime. Pardon the redundancy. A so-called humiliation. A normal example could be, for instance, Gojo from Jujutsu Kaisen, sending the curse shaped like a volcano to Fortnite, Vegeta doing nasty things to the overweight porcelain doll C-19, or the legendary Itachi against Kakashi and Asuma, and the one who wanted to cast a genjutsu on the guy who was almost literally a walking genjutsu. Kurenai. The Kurenai memes will never go out of style, but a Kumeada has to have a comedic touch, especially because, after all, it's unintentional comedy. To help you understand better, I'm talking about this. That, my friends, is the essence that created the concept of being Kumeado on the floor. Damn Yamcha. And finally, some of you might be wondering, hey, what does that have to do with the KUM? If you've asked yourself this, little buddy, you probably haven't watched enough anime. Not enough to understand this shady reference. But seriously, haven't you seen those memes about this is how the Chinese girl ends up at the end of the anime? No, nobody? Forget it, first place. Shadis, Instructor Shadis, not only stars in one of the biggest humiliations ever seen in anime history, but he's also the ultimate cook of anime. Imagine you're walking calmly down the street and you run into a messed up guy who says he has amnesia. You attempt to assist him by bringing him to your crush's workplace to chat with him and see her simultaneously. Do the two of them hit it off right in front of you? You don't pay much attention to it, just like the guy from the creepypastas. What about returning from a military mission where, for the 25th time this year, 90% of your comrades and friends have died? Boom. You get the epic surprise that that woman had a baby with beautiful emerald eyes with that damn guy you ran into. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about the huge beating he got recently. As we know, Flock has completely lost his mind. He's gotten extremely intense over the last few episodes. You know, with him polishing Aaron's rifle every half hour. The point is that Flock intimidates a few of Shadis' recruits, and he tells them that to prove their loyalty to the Almighty God with abs sculpted by the gods themselves, Aaron arrives. They have to beat up Instructor Shadis. Shadis, all tough and badass, says with a pair of balls, "I don't care. These kids are no match for me." Just to show up in the next scene, all beaten up on the ground, totally wrecked, like a rhinoceros ran over him. I love this character, but this was a total bro moment. But this scene has a much bigger comedic impact in the manga, which is the original work after all. Did they notice this in the anime? And is that why? Between the moment Instructor Shadis says his epic and brave line and the moment you see him knocked out on the floor, it's not instant. This was done to give the scene the drama and seriousness it deserves, since in the manga Shadis says his line. The students look at him, and in the next panel, he's already knocked out. A textbook example of unintentional comedy. And as the icing on the cake, this is a tiny spoiler. It shouldn't even be considered a spoiler. Is it really something silly? After all this, someone manages to talk to Shadis, and seeing him all beaten up and exhausted, asks him what happened. To which Shadis says, "I fought with a bear." Oh man, is unplanned food the tastiest? Oh yeah, I want to give an honorable mention to Reiner Braun as the character with the dubious honor of holding the record for the most breakdowns in everything. Attack on Titan, by far our great Lena is in second place. The fight between Vegeta, Daini, Dankai, and Perfect Cell could have easily made this list as it did in the Humiliation video. But I think there was a part of the story where Vegeta was even more humiliated, if that's possible, than against Cell. I'm talking about none other than Vegeta versus Frieza in his final form on Namek. Hardly a fight at all. All the entries on this list are going to share a pretty obvious common factor, and that's the element of involuntary or voluntary comedy. We'll never know which in scenes that are supposed to be dramatic, at least in theory. In this case, Frieza, oh, Frieza, how you heat me up, reaches his final form, which has absolutely nothing to do with the previous ones in terms of strength. Meanwhile, Vegeta exploited the Zenkai bug, similar to how I used the cloning glitch in Pokemon Emerald as a child, greatly increasing his power. After this power boost, Vegeta believed not only that he was capable of defeating Frieza, but also that he was the legendary Super Saiyan. Back then, nothing was known about the Super Saiyan transformation. Vegeta's words seemed credible as the anime aimed to convey that he had significantly boosted his power at that point. Since he could stand up to Frieza's first form recently, it was quite plausible. Frieza burst into laughter when Vegeta claimed to be the legendary Super Saiyan, which already started to make the viewer doubt Vegeta's power up a little. The fight begins and, well, Frieza massacres Vegeta, but in a terrifying way. He tortures him in every way possible and humiliates him both physically and psychologically, to the point of completely breaking our dear prince, making him cry in helplessness when he realized he fought someone invincible. To add insult to injury, Goku was mocked for massacring his entire race. Finally, Goku arrives, but the timing of his appearance is questionable. The scene he finds is Frieza, all small, standing in his place, and Vegeta, completely beaten on the ground, as if he had been forced to watch Boruto. Among all the scenes I'll discuss, this is the sole instance that was genuinely dramatic. Except for Vegeta, who claimed to be the legendary Super Saiyan, only to end up utterly defeated on the ground 5 minutes later. Vegeta was a true warrior, worthy of his race and his title during this fight, but no one can take away the terrible beating he received. Third place, Bellamy. What can I say about one of the most overwhelming and massive beatdowns of all, One Piece? This character, reminiscent of a typical high school bully, was beaten up several times. But I think we can all agree that Luffy's punch to Bellamy, right in that stupid face of his, was one of the most satisfying moments of all. One Piece, the element of involuntary comedy makes an appearance here again. Bellamy is like those autistic One Piece fans who still think to this day that the bounties the Marines put on characters are the power scale of One Piece, even though they've explained 1,000 times in the series that they're not. That the bounty has nothing to do with power, but rather the bounty increases based on the threat that particular pirate or revolutionary poses to the world government. Doflamingo, worth $5, finds Luffy's old wanted poster, and to prove how bad he is, I guess he starts provoking Luffy and Zoro, since he sees them as a couple of losers who make no sense having a bounty on their captain's head. I can't recall the exact details of why Luffy allowed himself to get hit by this unusual character. Nami asked them not to cause a scene, because if they made a fuss and drew attention, there could be terrible consequences for their mission at that moment. When Bellamy tried to cross the line, Zorogoth drew his katana to threaten him, but Luffy ordered Zorogoth to stand down. Zorogoth, a loyal friend and comrade, accepted his captain's order without hesitation. In the end, both of them are beaten up by the man who thinks having springs as a power is cool, and they leave. But oh fate, their paths cross again, only this time the situation is very different. Bellamy's crew discovers that Luffy's bounty at that time was actually 100 million, not 30 million. A bounty that shows we were already talking about a pirate who was a threat the Navy had to take seriously. Bellamy pulls a Mr. Satan and says it's fake, that it must be a trick, that it's impossible for those kids he beat up to be that dangerous. But the inevitable moment comes when these two have to face off. Bellamy keeps acting tough and cocky, jumping all over the place to gain momentum. As he's about to attack, a nuclear punch lands right on his dumb jaw. Luffy left him unconscious on the ground with his mark on his face. Many believe Luffy punched him. But no, he hit him so hard it sent him straight to the gulag. Still, the Bellamy from Dressrosa learned not to be a cringe lord. Sometimes a timely punch is the solution for a jerk. Bonus round, the 5 Kages. Let's end this infamous video with a 5-way beatdown. What happened between Madara and the 5 Kages back then went far beyond the barrier of humiliation. I think that even though, yes, Madara looked insanely imposing and powerful, we didn't think the beatdown was going to be that brutal. Especially because of the introduction of the 5 Kages gathered there. All looking cool, like, chill, we got Madara covered. Just 5 minutes later, they ended up smashed on the ground with their butts exposed. Without forgetting, of course, Madara's legendary phrase, which went down in history as one of the most humiliating lines in the field. Do you want the clones with or without Susanoo? Basically, this was the Uchiha version of the classic Do You Want It? With or without Vaseline? A real madness that I think none of us who have watched or read Naruto will ever forget. Did you like the video? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and follow me on my social media like Twitter and Twitch, where I stream almost every day. Also, don't forget to follow me on my secondary channel, Belka Tilter, where I upload videos reacting to anime or reading manga that I've watched or read live. Thank you very much and see you next time.